This is Tawana Freeman with the Black Life Coaches Network. Thank you for joining us for another episode of BLC TV. You know, one of the things that we get a lot of high responses over is obviously about relationships, love and relationships. That's a huge topic for us. Black love life, single Black men, single Black women finding love. Those are very serious hot topics. One, because relationships are important. And one of the things that I wanted to get into with our guest is basically feedback from an article that she posted on our website that has basically gone viral. And with us today is ATIYA. Welcome, ATIYA.
Thank you. How are you, Tawana? It's good to see you again.
I'm doing fantastic. Okay, what people need to know is that ATIYA is a BLC contributor. She's a member, and she's been with us for quite a while now. It's been, you know, we've only been around for 18 months, but you've been with us for about the same amount of time.
Yes.
So what is so actually phenomenal about your most recent article is that you discuss the 5 mindsets that hinder Black women from being able to find or have relationship success. And what's interesting is that you gave some real cute ways of packaging the mindsets. They kind of you told the truth, but you wrapped it in a little humor. But let's talk about those 5 mindsets, you know, just because we know we can read the article, but I want you to kind of describe in your very, very wonderful way what those 5 mindsets are.
Absolutely. Before I describe them, though, Tawana, I have to really briefly share what sparked it. You know, it's interesting because I always get a lot of single men who come to me who's looking for Mrs. Right. I get a lot of single women who's looking for Mr. Right. And then after speaking to each of them, sometimes you can understand why certain people are single. When you really get into the nuts and bolts of what they're dealing with, you can really see why they're single. But what sparked this particular article is I was invited to go on a radio program on a series about relationships. And so the young man asked me to tune in onto one of the shows because he was going to have a relationship or a dating expert on. So I tuned in, and pretty much her whole statement and whole conversation was that all men, all Black men in particular, are pretty much beyond repair. And that got me livid. I was livid. And so I typed in a question because I was really exhausted. It was like 9 o'clock my time. I had a full day. And I said, you know what? I really don't want to come on the show. I just want to listen. Well, it got me going. And so when I hung up, I said, this is the reason why. She is representative. She has a deep hurt that apparently has not been reconciled. And so because of her pain, she has condemned all Black men to being beyond repair. And that's just not an accurate take on the situation. And so after sitting back thinking about the radio program and thinking about the many women and men that I've helped, I said, you know what? I think I need to write about this. And so this is where I came up with the 5 mindsets that hinder Black women from relationship success, because it actually does. You have a lot of women. One of them is bitter. There are a lot of women who may have been hurt, and they may have been deeply hurt and justifiably angry. But you cannot allow that anger to drive you into a future where you're not able to experience real love. Because one man or 2 or 3 men may have hurt you doesn't mean that every man is like that man who hurt you. And you have to be able to separate the baby from the bathwater. And thus the first mindset I called Bitter Barbara. And Bitter Barbara is a person who, no matter how feminine she attempts to be, she's just bitter and she's hard to the core. And she's disenfranchised and disappointed, and that disappointment has interfered with any relationship that she would have been able to have. And this Bitter Barbara may have truly had good men that have come into her life, but she doesn't see that man for who he is because she's living out the pain on a daily basis of her past. So she attempts to bring her past, expecting to have a brighter and better future, but she's bitter and she hasn't been able to let go. And trust me, I know bitter Barbaras. And so I was really able to really speak on it and draw from people that I actually know or have encountered that are bitter, who are beautiful people. They just are not able to let go of the pain. And then we have independent Eileen. And independent Eileen is one of those types of women who, I have a good job, I'm independent, I can take care of myself, I don't need a man to pay my house note, my mortgage, I don't need a man to pay my car note, I can pretty much take care of myself, I just want companionship. Well, when you're thinking in terms of long-term relationships are interdependent, they're not independent. That's a single mindset. So independent Eileen, which there are many women, particularly in today's society, who's like that, because as women, many have been forced to make it on their own without that income, the two household income. And they've gotten into a pattern, unfortunately, of being so independent that they can't let go of some of the control when they get into a relationship. And it doesn't work. And so, you know, relationships are synergistic. You have to be able to cooperatively work together. It can't be my way or the highway. And an independent Eileen has that type of mindset. And, you know, with all of the things on the market, sex toys, i.e., you know, women feel, but you know, none of those things are a replacement for real human interaction. And so, you know, at the end of the day, I don't care how independent a woman is, she has a fundamental need for a man in her life. And thus, this is why you have a lot of wealthy, unhappy people. And so,
you know, we're talking to ATIYA. She is a contributor to the Black Life Coaches, and she's also the founder and creator of themarriagetree.net. So you definitely want to check out her website. And if you look below this video, you'll see all that information where you can easily and quickly find her online. But ATIYA, you know, Bitter Barbara and Independent Eileen, I think it was. Those two women, obviously, yes, we've all met them. Actually, I've been independent Eileen. I mean, being a single mom. So I know a lot of women out there who, just because of divorce and being a single parent, where that lives in you. And that's where being able to speak with someone who's an expert and being able to help you transition through those things is so important, because if you continue to live, like you said, if you continue to live and feel that way, you're selling yourself short. You're going to come up short. You're not going to find the love that you ultimately had dreamed about, or you're not going to be able to be at your best self or be at peace if you continue to hold on and create that fence or that wall around your heart. Okay, so let's move on to the third mindset.
You know, it's interesting. You said something really quickly before I go to religious Rhonda, is I didn't write this article out of a vacuum. I've been married and divorced as well. As a matter of fact, let the truth be told, I've been married and divorced twice. And, you know, it's not something that you boast about, but it's the actual fact and the truth of what the situation is. So there are situations in my previous relationship where I could have been bitter. I could have been angry. And I, too, have been confronted with some of these issues. That's why I'm able to write about them. And that's why I know these characteristics so well. Is because I, too, have had a multiple personalities that are portrayed here. And independent Eileen is definitely one of them. And divorce will do that to you. Being a single parent will do that to you. But when you have that person who comes into your life who's willing to step up to the plate, you have to let go of some of that independence, because marriage is an interdependent relationship, and there's a very real difference. So religious Rhonda is the person who, she is really religious. She can quote the scriptural books from front to back, but yet lacks spirituality. She is so lost in this mechanical way of living and not really allowing real life to take its course. And so no man is ever good enough because she's looking for the perfect man, and there is no such thing as the perfect man. There may be one perfect for you, but there's no such thing. And so they're looking for the return of Christ in a person who is standing before them, so they can never measure up.
I'm sorry, ATIYA. ATIYA, I've had the whole time you're describing religious Rhonda, I've got these crazy images going through my head. Oh my God. You know what? It's so funny is that we all know, we know we can recognize these people in our lives, but the religious Rhonda one has me thinking about like some of my aunts that I know.
Yeah. One of my good friends.
Church moms, you know.
Yeah.
We're laughing about it, but it's a very serious topic. But it's nothing wrong with being covered, you know, in your relationship with God. It's nothing wrong with being covered in that.
Absolutely.
When it derails is when you fantasize, as you said, about a perfect guy that doesn't exist, that you believe will kind of appear and just walk into the door, just break the doors open and walk up and say, I believe you're my wife. God called me. I'm going to step into this, you know, this room, and I'm picking you out of 4,000 people. You're the one for me. And, you know, there he is. I call that the Boaz scenario.
Yes.
So Boaz shows up and you fall out in his arms and everything is perfect. That's what but that's what we're taught, ATIYA. Let's be clear. Being in especially in the Christian religion, if you're taught and you're raised in the word, that's what you're to expect, that this perfect man is supposed to show up. Not to mention, we also are told that in fairy tale stories with the Cinderella, the Snow White, I mean, that whole thing always comes up. So the fact that you bring up that you're not gonna find that perfect person, and that you should not expect this person to be without fault. Absolutely. And you should not expect that you won't be without fault, even though you are wrapped in religion. So I'll let you go ahead and finish.
And you know what's funny is, you notice that the Cinderella stories, they never talk about the story after the wedding ceremony. And that's actually been a story that I considered writing, is Cinderella after the fact. Because, you know, you have all this fairy tale about the courtship process and up to the day of the wedding, but marriage takes work. And I have a girlfriend who, and mind you, Tawana, I had to use names so that they did not bear any resemblance to people that I knew, because, but trust me, I know every one of these type of characteristics in a person that I have interfaced with, or they have a combination of these personality traits. And there's a girlfriend that I have, and I love her dearly. She is a beautiful person, has some beautiful things, but she is looking for the return of Christ. And she does not expect to have to work in a relationship. And marriage is organic. You have to nurture it. You have to feed it. You can't just put it in there and then expect it to go on its own. It doesn't happen that way.
That's right.
And this is what a religious Rhonda thinks. She thinks that, and she has expectations that she herself couldn't even measure up to. And that's the thing. So, you know, like my girlfriend and like many religious Rhondas, you meet these wonderful men. I've introduced her to wonderful men who are great catches. And she just doesn't get it.
Yeah. No. I'm with you on that. And I know how hard it is to convince our religious Rhondas that their standards are way too high.
One of the things that religious Rhondas struggle with is they really don't know what they want.
Right.
And the only picture that they have in front of them, unfortunately, is a picture that has been painted, and sometimes from a biased standpoint or an unrealistic standpoint.
Right.
And it's unfortunate because you do get a lot of women in the church who are single.
Right. Absolutely.
And that's not a healthy thing, because when you talk about balance, and this is an issue that I really honestly believe that really should be taken up on a stronger platform in spiritual houses, is because you have a lot of women who are not married or who have not been remarried for many, many years, and who are walking this journey of life alone when they don't have to.
Right.
And it's because of unrealistic expectations. And I agree with you. You don't have to compromise yourself. Marriage is not about compromise.
Absolutely.
You don't have to compromise yourself. You have to be steadfast on what it is you want, but what you want has to be logical and make sense.
It has to make sense, right?
It has to make sense.
That's exactly right, because there's some things that are, as you said, very minor, things that, some other folk would say, is that all you're worried about? And a lot of our girlfriends or guy friends will criticize the minimal things that we get caught up in. And so we have Bitter Barbara, we have Independent Eileen, we have Religious Rhonda. Okay, so who do we have next?
And now we have Demanding Dina. And I was a demanding Dina. And let me tell you, because I grew up in a all-female household, it was my mother, my sister, and I. And my mother didn't have me in and out of her life. She never married. And my father didn't offer any kind of emotional or financial support, And so as women, we did what was necessary. In my first marriage, I would gut out the bathroom, pull up the floor in the kitchen, and I would do things that men would do because it needed to be done. And if I couldn't hire a person to do it, I would do it myself. Right. And so I was married, but yet I was married and I was masculine. And he would get things like, who wears the pants in your household? And so I had to come to grips with the demanding Dina aspect of myself, that masculine part of me. And that would make you bitter, because as a woman, naturally you want a man to be able to step up to the plate and to be that man. And for me, the type of woman that I was, if you didn't do it, I'd just step up to the plate and do it. And I had to learn to step back and let my then husband at that time, be a man.
Women who operate in a position of power at work are very demanding and very controlling. And you're a boss at home just as much as you're a boss at work. And so you have to check that at the door.
Right. It's funny because my children growing up, I have such a structured, organized way of doing it. And part of that is traits in terms of the time and season in which I was. But my children, they drew pictures of me as a military sergeant having a salute, and they would call me Sister Mommy. And it was so funny how they would view me, because I was so structured and organized in terms how I wanted things. And so Demanding Dina was definitely one. But I have met my match. I have married the right person for me, because he doesn't get bullied. and even when I do have flashbacks of the Demanding Dina character traits, he will quickly help to whip me back in shape. and although he's 10 years my junior, I have definitely married my match. We are a good balance, and really just the way he is really helps to subdue that independent and that demanding aspect of myself. Because when you are, and one of the reasons why I love to write, I used to do company infrastructure. And one of the reasons why I love to do the policies and procedures is because I could determine what would happen within that organization. Right. I had control over that.
Oh yeah, which is a perfect. You know what? A lot of us know what lane we live in, and we
Right.
know where we need. If you don't know, if you're watching this and you don't know, if that you are as demanding as we're describing, all you need to do is check what you do for a living. If
Right.
you just check what you do for a living. If what you do for a living and you enjoy being in charge and directing people and being, the boss, if that's you, then you may have some demanding Dina, characteristics. And it's nothing bad as much as you just need
Right.
to adjust. Just
Yes.
check, as I say, check it at the door, because even your
Absolutely.
children, as ATIYA has said, your children see you the same way, and it's just not the man in your life. It can also be your children.
Yes.
Okay, and so we have the fifth and the final.
And the fifth and final one is Loose Lucy. And really this one's interesting because a lot of women, and I have coached women who were wanting to prepare themselves for a long-term relationship, and they struggle with this one. And I will tell anyone, I was a single parent, so I didn't fall out of heaven. I made mistakes, but I learned from my mistakes. And because I had been married before, I wanted to do things the right way and the proper way. And I'm still friends with my children's husband, but I didn't necessarily do things when we started our relationship as I did to the man that I'm married to now. And there is a major difference when you decide to hold yourself and keep yourself. And so I really push staying chaste or abstinence prior to marriage, because when you are looking to enter a possible long-term relationship, sex kind of confuses the situation. You want to get to know that person on a level that does not, where your emotions do not interfere with you making an informed and a sound decision. And anytime you are deciding or considering to spend your life with another person, you have to really learn some things and be willing to ask the tough questions that you wouldn't ask if you were already engaged in a sexual relationship with them.
Absolutely.
And so Loose Lucy is the type of woman who she thinks everyone is the one. And you talk about a 90-day rule or whatever the rule is.
Right.
She doesn't have those boundaries. She feels that going to the next phase in a relationship is a sexual one. And she will sleep with anyone thinking or putting that as a replacement for love. Mm-hmm. And so unfortunately she suffers from low self-esteem, mm-hmm. and a low self-image. Mm-hmm. She doesn't really have a sense of self.
And so if you're looking at shifting the dynamics of relationship away from sexual activity that could taint or prohibit you from seeing things that you should see,
absolutely,
then you need to investigate a little bit more. Call ATIYA, talk to ATIYA, but you really need to dig deep into the reasons for that, because if you have young women in your life that you're raising, they're going to repeat the cycle based on what they see. And so we know that, and obviously being women in the community, as mentors in the community, this is not a criticism, because nobody's perfect. What this is, again, it's just a wake-up call for something that you may need to do different. That's it.
Very quickly before we close this, is while you may see these 5 mindsets that hinder particularly Black women from relationship success, there are also attributes that can help you to achieve relationship success. Absolutely. And the challenge is to work on whatever it is in your personality and your character that needs to be worked on, so that you would be compatible to someone, and someone would want to spend their life with you and walk this journey with you.
So thank you for your time, ATIYA. You've been great.
My second marriage ended as a result of physical, mental, and emotional and verbal abuse. And I had the courage to walk away from that. These are hard decisions sometimes when you connect with people that you have to make. Yeah. But you never have to stay in a condition that is not healthy for you, but do everything you can to bring your healthy and whole self to the table, so that when you connect with someone, you're connecting for the right reasons.
Absolutely.
And I have to honestly